All right, welcome into this training where I'm going to be covering off on some of the lessons that I've learned from $30 million in sales, on the phones, in the trenches, closing deals, and the vast majority of that was driven through Meta advertising. So we're going to cover off on how we can use Meta to help reach $1 million months in sales. So if you've been in this space for long enough, odds are you've been sold a lie. ROAS, attribution, sales is a numbers game. You've probably heard these terms thrown around. You might even still believe some of these terms, but today I'm going to be debunking a lot of those myths because they're keeping you stuck. They're sold by vendors that are happy to step on your business to line their own pockets and grow their own whilst your business stays stuck in mediocrity. Before you switch off, just hear me out. I promise you will understand all of this before the end of the training, because you might be thinking, isn't ROAS showing me how much money I make? Doesn't attribution tell me what's working? How is sales not a numbers game? What the hell is this guy on about? We'll get to all that shortly, but I can promise these ideas are costing you revenue and bottlenecking the growth of your business. So why listen to me? I don't want to spend 20 minutes going through my background and story or anything, but just a few of the success stories that I've had either internally as an employee or contractor, or now companies that we've partnered with at our revenue firm. Some of the results, we've had a couple of 8-figure brands, a lot of 7-figure brands, and even more 6-figure brands. So been in this space for a long time, obviously running some pretty big numbers in that time as well. And I learned early on that Meta ads were not the money machine they were sold as. They're an amplifier to the business. If the business was solid, the ads would amplify the success of that business. If the business had holes in it and it was not rock solid, the ads would amplify those holes as well. And I was taught by my mentor, a great business scales an ad account, not the other way around. Yet so many people are looking for the hacks, the fast path to cash, the easy way to do business, when in all honesty, the easy way just doesn't exist. You have to have a great business for ads to scale. The ads aren't going to save you. So if your business just isn't in a good position, you don't deliver for clients, you can't retain clients, you don't have a good offer, you don't have a good strategy, you don't have a good structure, the economics model doesn't work, all of these other factors that come into it, no matter what you do with a business that doesn't have those ingredients for success, it won't scale, it won't grow. So you can burn as much money on ads as you want, but I promise you, it's all going down the toilet. So the lie is that all you need to do is spend X dollars on ads, that'll get you X amount of leads, which will get you X amount of calls, which will get you X amount of sales. Now, all you need to do is solve the equation for X and you have $1 million a month business. If only it was that simple. On paper, you can make it look this simple, but there's a lot more going on under the hood than this equation will tell you. The other side of that is if you have outbound reps and you're doing cold calls or something like that, the reverse headcount model predictable revenue approach is have X amount of outbound reps, they'll make X amount of calls or contacts, that'll lead to X amount of meetings, which will then result in X amount of revenue. Again, assuming that all buyers are the same, that all leads are equal, when they're simply not. So why doesn't this work? Well, just to list off a few reasons. Ads are an amplifier to the ecosystem, not the sole reason someone buys. So basing the entire equation of your business on ads just doesn't make sense. Paid ads can be one of the least efficient conversion points, especially through socials, but are great at pouring gasoline on an already brewing fire. So if you've got momentum, using ads to amplify and expand that momentum is a great resource, but trying to get off the ground through ads is difficult and can be costly. All parts of the ecosystem affect each other, so it's not a siloed effort. Just because your ads perform well, it's not all credited to the ads. The brand, the content, the offer, the niche, the ecosystem, the arena or the total addressable market that you're playing in, all of these factors are influencing the success of any ad campaign, and your market is simply made up of different market profiles. So to treat every lead as equal, to treat every buyer the same, just simply doesn't make sense. And most importantly, buyers don't buy linearly. I don't remember the last time you bought something, but very rarely have I bought something as a spur of the moment thing of like, oh, that looks cool, I'm just going to buy that. There's some sort of journey that's happened before that, whether I've recognized a problem that I had and started searching for solutions, and then a solution for that particular problem pops up, or I see something that catches my interest, that looks interesting, I go search for reviews, I go onto YouTube, I go onto their Instagram profile, and I do some due diligence and digging before I even put my details into somewhere, let alone buy something. So as a super basic example of a buying journey, someone might see an ad first, they check out the page, then they see an ad again, they click through, go to the website, and then they click off. They see some reels popping up, they then see you float around on TikTok, a YouTube video then pops up for them, or they go search one and check one out. Then they see another ad and they finally convert as a lead or a purchase or whatever the offer is. Now, did this ad drive the purchase? No, it was just the last touch point in a journey that took place to create that conversion. You could then say, well, this ad created the conversion because it started the journey. Wrong. Like, there's so many other points throughout that journey that then resulted in the conversion. So applying credit to one channel, one specific ad, and siloing your marketing efforts is just going to result in mass confusion behind the scenes, and again, a bottlenecked business that won't grow. Whether you use a first touch model, a last touch attribution model, multi-touch, U-shape, bow tie shape, whatever shape people are coming out with, attribution has its flaws. And a big reason why is 80% of a buying journey is untraceable. So buyers are doing things that you just simply cannot track. They're talking to peers, they're going into groups, into forums, they're jumping onto competitor websites, review websites, going all over the place to find the information they want to make a purchase decision. So the vast majority of what they do that leads to that buying decision is not traceable by your attribution software. So that is why attribution is unreliable, and by extension, ROAS. Paying channel credit to whether it's Google, Meta, TikTok, YouTube, and trying to optimize that channel for ROAS is going to kill your business, because ROAS is one singular data point in the entire ecosystem. Yes, you can look at it as a trend metric to include in your overall analysis, but not a North Star for success. Because if you do, you might find that you end up cutting off one of your most profitable buying journeys by optimizing for ROAS. We often see with clients that campaigns that run at a low or negative ROAS actually have a stronger ecosystem impact across email, organic, and all these other channels because of the incremental lift that is given by the additional brand exposure. For example, one client that we started with was roughly around 30 to 40,000 a month at the time. Within a couple of months of the ads going on, they're now routinely hitting around 60 to 80K a month, moving up to the 100K a month, soon eventually to be at the $1 million a month mark. And not all of that growth is attributable to ads, but there is a direct correlation between when we implemented the ad campaign and strategy to the overall revenue growth. Their organic got better, their email responses got better. Everything got better when we introduced ads into the ecosystem. Because of the ecosystem effect, all of these channels work together to help grow the business. So we don't forget attribution, we don't forget ROAS, but we use them in a way that gives us the information we need to make educated decisions, not make biased decisions. And that also applies to sales, and why sales is not a numbers game. Because just knocking on more doors doesn't get the job done. And that comes down to simple market dynamics. If you just keep knocking on doors, you're going to annoy a lot of people. Whereas if you understand market dynamics and you can tailor your approach to actually get into a market without torching that market at the same time, you'll get way better cut through, way more efficiency, and way more revenue at a far less headcount. And that's an approach called cataloging the market that I won't go into today. But again, just to highlight the fact that you can't just knock on more doors, because not everyone is ready to buy. Not everyone wants to buy your stuff right now. So I'll break this down into some visuals so we can understand it. The first being overall market dynamics. So we've got the total addressable market of whatever your niche is. Let's say your niche is HR representatives, and HR are the ones that enlist your company's services within their companies. Inside that total addressable market, there's going to be multiple desires. Some are going to be driven by staff retention, some are going to be driven by culture, some are going to be driven by financial reasons and less sick days. Multiple desires are going to float within that total addressable market. Inside there as well, there's going to be multiple levels of awareness. Some are going to be unaware of their problems, some are going to be aware of their problems, some are going to be aware of solutions in the market and actively looking for some are going to be aware of your product or your brand, and some are looking for a deal or some sort of offer from your brand. So the 5 stages of awareness. Then inside of that, I just added persona in there. There's going to be different levels of sophistication and personas. So there's going to be the HR reps that are managing a 500 plus employee company versus the HR reps that have a 100 plus employee company. Completely different personas, completely different needs and budgets and levels of sophistication in terms of their understanding of the actual problem and what they've experienced before. So inside those markets, there's just so many different angles and messaging styles that need to be hit to really penetrate that total addressable market. Then we've got the buyer's pyramid principle, which if you've been in marketing for any period of time, you should probably know this principle. That's to say that 3% of buyers are product aware, buying now. This again plays into the stage of awareness. 7% are solution aware and open to buying. 30% are problem aware but aren't actively looking for solutions. 30% are problem unaware but do have the problem, and then 30% don't need it or don't care. Now, when we say not everyone wants to buy your stuff, this means not everyone is up here. The majority of your market is down here. Now, that doesn't mean we don't try and get these people, because a big mistake is people will then ignore these and just run, say, white paper or ebook downloads and try and shove people down here into sales processes, which is super inefficient from a sales, headcount, budget perspective. But we have to take into account that a large portion of our market is not in market right now. So we need to have activities and strategies that tailor towards these, and activities and strategies that tailor towards this top end of the pyramid. More leads does not equal more sales. So to expand on that a little bit, simply because if we say have a total addressable market of 2 million people, we might find that after $200 a day on ads, we push out of this market of these people who are in market, especially if we're going for a direct offer, and we start to push into these people who are aware of the problem but not actively looking for solutions, and all of a sudden our lead cost blows out, or the quality of the leads is not as great. We start to get lower tier people. Everything just starts to fall off a cliff. And again, if you've been running ads for any period of time, you've probably had that experience where everything looks really good for a while, and then you hit a certain level of spend and everything collapses, everything falls off a cliff. And it's because of these dynamics and these principles that occurs. Because at a certain level of spend, we're still appealing to the top end of the market. But as we increase that spend and increase the width and the audiences that we're starting to tap into, we start to hit different stages of awareness. And if our message isn't tailored to these sorts of levels of awareness, or if our offer is not tailored to handle this sort of awareness, the sales process is not tailored to handle the additional volume that comes in, then everything can start to break. So you might be thinking, are ads good or bad? Like, what are you trying to say here? Ads are great when used effectively in alignment with the rest of your ecosystem. And they're not complicated. One core campaign can get you to $1 million a month. And there's 4 components to making that system. One core campaign can get you to $1 million months. And there's 4 components that make that up. There's the hero offer, the creative portfolio, ecosystem economics, and an aligned sales process. So I'm going to break each one of these down as we go through and show some examples of some tools and resources you can use to start tracking some of these elements. Starting with the hero offer. So what is a hero offer? It's a validated path to purchase that typically yields the most profitable buying journey for the company. So if that was an e-commerce brand, for example, you might find that one product that people buy tends to lead to a ton more upsells and second purchases, etc. A great example of this is when Microsoft sells an Xbox or Sony sells a PlayStation. They typically lose money on the sale of that console, but they make a large chunk of their profits on the sales of games and things like that. So their hero offer is the PlayStation or Xbox that gets people into their world, gets people buying from them, but their profit makers are the games. They don't run evergreen campaigns all year round for the same games over and over again. They'll do promotional periods when a new game gets released, but the biggest needle mover for them is getting more people to buy the console. Because the more people that buy the console, the more games they're obviously going to buy. So if you already have something that's working, Great, start there, amplify that. Say you're running free giveaways organically and that's driving a ton of your revenue, awesome, amplify that. Do you have applications coming in and people that are recognizing your brand? Awesome, amplify that. Whatever's working, start there and amplify it. But the big thing is don't amplify multiple offers in your ad account to a wide, broad audience. The only other time you would introduce new offers into the account is through retargeting campaigns with a core offer or like a promotional offer. If we use the PlayStation and Xbox example, if Sony or Microsoft built a retargeting list around all the people that had purchased Xboxes or PlayStations and retargeted them with various game promotions, and you could bucket it based on different personas and all the other things we've spoken about, they can drive a lot more sales through retargeting with that alternate offer, with the core offer, which is their moneymaker, rather than trying to retarget people that have shown interest in PlayStations and stuff, or pushing those games out to a cold audience, because then you're going to go out to a cold audience and obviously a lot of them might not even have a PlayStation. So if you have your hero offer, keep that as the centerpiece of the account and retarget the buying list from here plus other potential engagements with your core offer next step. By doing that, you keep the campaign simple. Complexity will kill your ad account, because once the hero offer has been identified, we only want to use one campaign for that hero offer. So because Meta is a machine learning environment, the less variables that we introduce into that machine learning environment, the better it will do its job. Like if you had an employee and you just dumped a ton of tasks on them, and one day you're like, can you do accounting, then can you do marketing, then can you do sales, then can you do some HR stuff and some admin stuff. Like if you just ask someone to do everything, they're going to get super overwhelmed and probably be very unproductive at all of them. Same thing with your ad account. If you are asking it to promote all these different offers to cold audiences and it's trying to find like which audience is best, and then it's trying to avoid auction overlaps so that it's not creeping on itself even though it's going to anyway, and you just have a ton of campaigns, or worse, like top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom of funnel campaigns that people still run, all of that is killing your campaign's performance. Now you should know that ROAS isn't the be all and end all of an account's success, but we do still want to ensure that our ads are having a positive impact on the business. By utilizing the one core campaign with a hero offer, you're going to get the most out of the Meta Ads platform and the most out of the machine learning, which therefore means the most scale. If you partner that up with effective ecosystem economics, which I'll go into in a bit. So how does that campaign structure look? So we have a core campaign that'll have some winning post IDs and a couple of DCT tests. I got this campaign structure from my mentor in ads, Charlie Titchener. So big shout out to Charlie. Now this structure doesn't always work if you're running, say, messenger-based campaigns or Instagram Messenger or lead form campaigns. You can't pull the post IDs through, and for Messenger you can't use DCTs either. So you just do a variation. You don't do the winning post IDs. You just test through different creative concepts. And we use a separate campaign to do that creative concept testing so that we feed our core campaign with the highest probability creatives. Rather than dumping 20, 50 new creatives into this campaign and going through heaps of rounds of testing, we do our testing in this bare campaign and promote the winning creative elements into our core campaign. That way this campaign stays stable. We're only introducing new things into it every few weeks or so once it's up and running. Obviously, if it's not up and running efficiently, you'll introduce new creative concepts quicker than that to work on improving the performance and getting it to where you need to be. But once it's at a stable place and it's performing relatively well, we're only looking to introduce new creative concepts every 4 to 6 weeks to see if we can improve overall performance and solve a problem. If there's no problems in the account and everything's performing, go focus elsewhere. Stop playing in the account. Now for your hero offer, your campaign settings will be broad, age, gender, location only. That'll lean into the machine learning aspect the most and give you the most scale out of your creatives, which then prevents things like ad fatigue taking place. Because if your account is structured correctly and you're going through a proper creative testing strategy, then you won't run into ad fatigue. If you have ad fatigue, it is simply operator error. You're making some mistakes and you need to fix up the structure. Now, outside of that core campaign, that doesn't mean we don't have other campaigns running, but they are supporting cast campaigns to our core campaign. So we've already mentioned the core offer retargeting. We might have digital air cover, which is just getting, say, testimonials and other messages we want to get in front of prospects who are potentially already in pipeline. Follower campaigns to grow organically, event campaigns, or short-term deals and promotions. So These are all support campaigns to the core hero offer campaign. So what you're trying to scale is the hero offer campaign. These are all just looking to improve the overall efficiency of that campaign on the back end. Next, we need to have a creative strategy. So you need to have a creative roadmap in place. So just to show you the process that we go through with doing this, I'll just pull up a document. So we use a document called the messaging matrix. All this essentially does is help us craft our messaging and make sure that we're appealing to different types of our audience as we develop our creative roadmap. So the first few stages, it's just brain dumping. We're just getting information in here. So list all the possible desires that you can think of for your market. Then we go to here and we list all possible features of our offer and the benefits of those features and how they match up to the desires that we've listed on the front end. Then we go through here and we list out all potential persona avatars that sit within our total addressable market. So again, these are all just brain dumps to help get all the information that you want out. They're not necessarily things you have to pull from every time. If you think of a new desire, then just add it in. If you think of a new feature or benefit, just add it in. These aren't set in stone, okay, once you've written these in, you have to abide by these. Again, just brain dumping sheets. The actual road mapping takes place on these two sheets. So this is the bare creative roadmap. So we will have the date that it's launched, the campaign objectives. So are we testing for the hero campaign? Are we trying to improve our, say, wider market penetration, lower the CPMs? What's the actual objective of the creative that we're testing? What's the concept of that creative? Is it an us versus them? Is it a news release style? Is it UGC, EGC? Is it organic? What's the actual angle you're taking? So is the angle, for example, if you're in the fitness niche, you might say training hard, eating all the right things and still can't lose weight, hormones might be the issue. So your messaging angle is hormones being the issue. Then we've got the creative format, so video or static. What elements, that's just the name, so image 1, video 1, whatever. What persona does this apply to? What desire are we trying to tap into? What benefit does that relate to? What awareness positioning does that tailor to as well? What awareness positioning, so we've got all the awareness levels there. What hook pattern are we using? And then did it win? Did it lose? How did it perform? And then we go through possibly 2 rounds of testing, depending on how much we're using here. We're aiming to consolidate this down to 3 creatives, 2 body copies, and 2 headlines. So if we're, say, testing 50 different creatives, we want to really consolidate that down to 3. So sometimes 1 round of testing won't be enough, so you'll need to do 2 rounds of testing to really flush out what your best creatives are going to be. And then the ones that you promote to a DCT, we promote them through them. So by using this sort of document, we're able to, if I just drag it back across, we're able to make sure that we're matching what we're doing with the right stages of our market. So we're being very deliberate in the creative actions that we take, not just being like, oh, I like this video, oh, this could be a cool idea for an organic image, or so on and so forth. We're being very structured with the approach that we take. So once you've got your creative roadmap in place and you know the desires, the levels of awareness, the benefits, the personas, all the elements that make up your creative messaging, you've roadmapped that out, and you're like, okay, here's the first batch of tests, this is why I think it's going to work, this is the research I did to validate why I think this messaging angle is going to work and why I'm looking to hit this level of awareness, so on and so forth. Now when you launch them and promote them into your main account, I won't go through a full tutorial on how to do the testing, but once they are in your core campaign, we then do a 4 PI analysis to understand where those creatives are starting to sit within our overall portfolio. So as you see, the amount spent, does Facebook like the creative? If Facebook doesn't spend on the creative, although it doesn't like it in comparison to others, doesn't mean it's bad, it just means it's serving a different purpose. The frequency also indicates the purpose of the account in tandem with the CPM, same as frequency in reverse for CPM, and cost per result shows how efficient the creative is based on the job that we've allocated for it inside the account. So for example, if you have, I'm going to use terms like top of funnel, middle of funnel just for the sake of it because I don't have better terms, but knowing that they're not structures, they're just concepts. So a top of funnel is the one that's going to appeal to a wider audience. That sort of creative, you will probably see most of the spend go to that because it's the most appealing. A low daily frequency because it helps get you into new markets. A low CPM because it's user friendly to Facebook's users. But it will typically have the highest cost per result in your account because it appeals to such a wide audience. Doesn't mean it's bad, it means it's acting more like a prospecting ad, kind of like a BDM in your account. Then you'll have other ads that act more like closers or account managers that the BDMs are setting those deals up for. So you'll have some creatives that push out and get these new audiences, and some that get less spend, have a higher daily frequency, a higher CPM, but get a way lower cost per result, because the top of funnel creatives are bringing people into your world, bringing people into your ecosystem, that then as they start to show positive engagement with those ads, they start to see your other ads as well. Your more mid or bottom funnel ads that are better at converting, but they're not creatives that Facebook's going to really want to put money behind and push into wider audiences. So we need to create a blend or mix of different creative styles, messaging angles, formats, personas, awareness levels. We create a mix of that, and that creates our creative portfolio. Then we need to understand our ecosystem and how all of this is actually playing into effect. So since we've established attribution as a myth, that doesn't mean we can't use it. It can still be a valuable tool in our toolkit to help us understand what's going on, because attribution can help us pinpoint correlation, not causation. We're not trying to apply credit to specific channels and say, Facebook is getting us majority of sales, Google's getting us majority of sales, TikTok, this, that, the other. We're not applying credit. We're looking at correlations between, okay, well, when we spend more in this area, what does that do to the rest of our ecosystem? When we withdraw or we do less activity in another area, what does that do to our ecosystem? And we start to learn about the levers that we can actually pull on inside our business to stimulate growth across the entire engine and lift your overall bottom line. So again, we use a document for that, which I'll just bring up now. So we have a number of other supporting data points to help us inform that. But just to go through the ecosystem side, we're going to have an overall source of truth. That could be your Stripe account, your Shopify store, or however you're collecting money. That's going to tell us how many sales in total did we actually make, how much revenue did we make, how much profit, so on and so forth. Then we're going to have our first touch or our in-market activity, and we're going to see how much that contributes to our overall bottom line. Now, what you might see is a business could be super heavily dependent on their front-end actions and their front-end marketing, meaning they don't have the most efficient back-end in terms of cross-sales, upsells, referrals, or things that don't rely on in-market activity to grow profits and grow revenue. You might also find the opposite, that a business is too reliant on upsells, cross-sells, referrals, etc., and they're not really generating anything on the front end, therefore no new business is coming in, and if anything happened behind the scenes, then they're kind of screwed. So we use this to, one, help establish the overall revenue health of the business, but then we layer out the channels through here, and we look at, okay, well, how many leads did Meta get us, how many organic, how many email, and then you can add any other channels you have through here. We do have ROAS in here, but again, it's not for the purpose of applying credit and being like, awesome, Meta ads are the best channel that we have. It's for drawing correlation. Because what we might find is we can run Meta at a 1.2 ROAS, for example, and still be very profitable over here. And we might actually find that when we run Meta at a higher ROAS, we actually lose out on profit because we're using our least efficient conversion channel as our primary driver for conversions. So then we actually miss out on profit by driving a higher ROAS. So using more top of funnel creatives and things like that, bring more people into our world, and then we might find that our email performance lifts. We might find that organic improves just through the sheer fact of being present in market with ads. We might also find the opposite, that you do need to run a higher ROAS on your ads because your organic and email is terrible and you don't have a strong enough infrastructure there. Regardless of what the scenario ends up being, we're trying to just draw the correlations between during this period, we took this activity, we spent this much, that had this impact on revenue. And obviously this is going to take a reasonable amount of data to start building up over time to really understand where those correlations are. But once you've got, say, 2-3 months of data points, you can probably have a pretty good idea of what buttons you can push to help accelerate the growth of the business. So this is going for a bit longer than I intended, so let's start to wrap this up. The last part is aligned sales, making sure marketing and sales are on the same team. Now, one thing to understand with this is data dictates direction. If you're reading the wrong data, you will go in the wrong direction. You will annoy both of these teams because they will be pitted against each other versus working together to grow revenue. So the traditional data model that most companies will use is similar to the X plus X equals Y sort of scenario that we mentioned at the start. They'll have a lead capture that'll be called an MQL. the SDR tries to book that, there'll be a certain percentage that then qualify as a sales qualified lead. When they get booked with an AE, then the AE will do a qualification measure. A certain percentage will then go to a sales qualified opportunity. A certain number will get pitched and a certain number will close. So it'll be a percentage of closing and a percentage that lose. Now, again, on paper, this looks great. It looks standard, normal, etc. The issue is that all of these leads get bucketed the same. Regardless of where they come from, they will get shoved through this same process. Therefore, you're going to cause a lot of disharmony in there because you're going to cause a lot of disharmony. If you've spent any time in sales, you'll understand that not all leads are equal. Leads that come from some sources are way higher quality than others. So by treating all leads as equal, you're going to frustrate sales. You're going to incentivize marketing to go for the cheapest leads because they just want to get highest volume through, as many MQLs as they can get. That's why sales then end up not calling their leads because their leads suck, and then the closing rates drop off. And this could take months, it could take years to start showing itself. But by running this model, you'll find that eventually you'll hit a point of diminishing return where all of these numbers just start to decline. Even though you're pumping more leads than ever before, all of these numbers just start to drop off. And then you think it's a sales problem, you fire the sales team, hire a whole new sales team, and go through that churn and burn cycle of sales teams over and over again for realizing it's actually a front-end problem. So the new data model, which was introduced by a company called Refine Labs, that is the data model that I follow, is understanding your hero pipeline production, standing for high intent revenue opportunity. So we break the pipeline sources out into different capture points. So declared pipeline is people that actually reach out to you and say, hey, I'm interested to have a chat. Outbound or ABM, doing cold calls, cold emails, doing just general outbound work. Referrals, low intent lead gen, you could have high intent lead gen, you could have emails, whatever it is. Then you've got your however many stages of your sales process there is. Hero is the stage a prospect needs to reach based on historical data from that particular source where they have a higher than 25% likelihood of converting. So people that reach out, for example, and are direct inbound, they might only need to reach stage 2 to become hero pipeline. So now we actually start to measure based on this. Whereas low intent lead gen being like ebook downloads, white paper downloads, etc., they might need to get all the way to stage 5 before they're considered as genuine pipeline, real pipeline. So now we can start to allocate our budget, our resources, and our energy towards the most optimal capture points. That doesn't mean if low intent lead gen is working for you that you cut it out. It's just knowing that we don't put all of our eggs in this basket because it's the lowest lead cost and cut everything else that drives all these other ones like content, podcasts, etc. that you can't necessarily track through attribution because we know that, hey, when we drive more inbound, we have a higher likelihood of closing them. So it's about, again, finding that balance, finding that mix, finding that overall portfolio of collective efforts that deliver the most optimal outcome for the company. Because we can't scale this indefinitely, we can't scale this indefinitely, we can't scale this or this or this. None of these scale indefinitely. They need to all be balanced and mixed together to, again, create the ecosystem effect and drive revenue up for the business. Now, metrics to track through that, you'll be tracking pipeline velocity, your lead to opportunity conversion, lead to win rate, so on and so forth. You can read all those there. These metrics will give you a finger on the pulse as to what is actually driving revenue for the business. In conjunction with how you're now running your ad account and using the ecosystem economics framework, you are now going to get a clear picture of what buttons you can push, what levers you can pull to drive revenue growth efficiently for the business. Versus just getting sold on, hey, we're going to get you 100 more leads, we're going to get you a 10x ROAS, we're going to scale your business, blah, blah, blah. Now you have a framework and a mental model to work through to go, okay, well, no, we're building an ecosystem. How does that activity fit into my ecosystem? If I'm going to outsource advertising to an agency or a revenue firm or whoever you're going to bring in, where does that fit into my overall ecosystem? What am I using it to do? What is the intention and purpose behind it to influence these data standards? Now you can make a much more informed decision versus buying into some of the BS that is out in the market. Now, there are obviously many more steps to getting to $1 million a month, but with these mental models and frameworks, you now should have the understanding that 1, ROAS and attribution are not the be all and end all. They are a part of the overall equation, but also that improving overall efficiency across whether it's meta ads, whether it's sales, keeping marketing sales in alignment is crucial to your success. If you can focus just on those things, $1 million months will be in reach for you. If you don't understand or don't even know those concepts, $1 million months are going to be impossible to reach. But at the end of the day, sales and marketing are just one component of a business. There are dozens of different other components that are going to make up the success of an overall business. As I mentioned at the start, a great business scales an ad account, not the other way around. So if you're going into ads looking for miracle solutions, looking for a quick growth, get rich quicks type scenarios, then most of the time you're going to be left disappointed. Sometimes it does work that way. Sometimes results are super quick. Most of our clients do get very quick results because we know all this and we know what we're looking for and we know which part to amplify. But also we know what ingredients to look for in clients to know if that's going to be a fast success business or if it's going to be a more challenging one, and we'll tell them that up front. So again, don't buy into the BS miracle golden ticket solutions because they just don't exist. If your business succeeds, it's because of the ingredients that you've brought to the table, not because of some ad or sales strategy that has been plugged in. That will amplify it and sure could be gasoline on the fire to your success, but not the sole reason of your success. Because at the end of the day, none of us have a crystal ball for every single thing that's going to apply to every single business and be successful for every single business, because every business is different. Every market is different. Every product is different. Everyone's got their own slight unique edge or their own slight unique way of doing business, and that creates a cascade of variables that just make it impossible to predict whether someone is going to succeed or not. But there are commonalities and there are overarching principles and frameworks that every business must adopt if they want to hit certain milestones. So for me, like, I know sales and marketing pretty well. My track record speaks for itself. I've been in this game for quite a long time. So my hope is that by learning these concepts, again, you won't fall for any of the BS out there and you'll stop giving your money to companies that just simply don't care about your success, that want to pull the wool over your eyes and tell them, yeah, we're doing a great job, ROAS is fantastic, our lead cost is super cheap, we're doing super well, even though you know on the back end, well, my sales team hate all these leads. They can't close any of them. They're telling me that none of these leads fit our ICP. Yeah, but they're super cheap. It's your fault. It's your sales team that sucks. That might be the case, but 9 times out of 10 it's not. 9 times out of 10 the leads are just trash because they're using low intent models and so on and so forth. Whole nother subject. But if you're watching this and you do need help, then submit an application to work with us. If we have spaces for new brands, we'll let you know. And if we don't, we've got a consulting offer where we can provide all the SOPs for you to take in-house and work on them yourself. And then when the time is right, if we have some spaces or the business has grown to a level where you need our help, then we can look to take over at that stage. So hopefully you found this valuable. Let's all win together and support the world in becoming a healthier, happier place, because entrepreneurs and businesses can create the change in this world that we really want to see.